I released a video recently on this channel that was directed to the Chinese radio manufacturers, and the ones that I called out a couple in particular, Baofeng, TID Radio, TalkPod, Zygu, those brands, about how they were coming out with radios that were mainly VHF and UHF, 136 to 174 megs, 400 to 480 megs. And I was basically saying it's a little bit boring. It's just rinse and repeat of the exact same thing. Some models with different types of features that are neither here nor there. Well, since that video, I've received a response from one of those manufacturers. This email that I received said, "Hello, Hayden. Thank you for your video," with a link to the YouTube video. "To be honest, VHF UHF is indeed our strong suit at the moment. However, your video has given us a new direction to explore. Although there are many challenges we need to overcome in this direction, we hope you can give us some time. We promise to come up with something different. Thank you again for your feedback and suggestions." Now, I'll say that this email came from one of the representatives at TalkPod. TalkPod released their radio, I think, last year. They gave me a couple for review, and they asked for feedback and suggestions on that model. One of the things was the first model, or the first iteration, wasn't spectrally clean. They came out with I think it was a 7-watt version. I did a review on this channel of that radio, and they fixed that problem. In fact, that radio is probably one of the better radios for aircraft reception compared to some of the other ones that you can get for listening on AM. But I thought it was pretty good that they listened, they fixed it, and it sounds like they're wanting more and more feedback and suggestions on what my video was on about the other day. So in line with that, there was plenty of great comments on the previous video. Drop in the comments below what you'd like to see. What's your number one preference? What do you want to see? I know that I mentioned several bands in the previous video. I mentioned 10 meters. There was a lot of talk about the 10 meter handheld radio, and a couple of great comments that it actually comes under a different model name, which escapes me right now. The original one was the Magnum. I also talked about 6 meters. One thing that I didn't mention in the previous video was the Woxon KGQ10H. That is a quad band radio which does 6 meters in it, and that was great, but it was kind of one of those, higher end ones. And again, it did all of the other bands. But what about if you just wanted 6 meters? Or it was still at that $220 mark. We're trying to pull that down a little bit, but that was good to see that they came out with that. The other bands that I also spoke about were 23 centimeters, which is the high gigahertz range. Elinco came out with plenty of those monoband 23 centimeter radios, and also 23 centimeters in a couple of other radios, such as some Yaesus, which was good to see. And I know that a lot of you guys in the comments also put down some 900 meg radios. I think is that 33 centimeters in the US is available. There's also 220. 220 you can still get in some of these cheaper radios, but they were the main bands of interest. So it was good to see some of the comments saying that they agreed. They would love to see this and see some of these come back, the monoband radios. So, but whatever your number one radio band that you want to see, say it's a monobander, what would you like to see? Do you want to see a 10 meter radio, 6 meter, 23, or something else? Pop it in the comments below, because obviously the manufacturers are listening and they're wanting feedback on what we want to see next. Personally, I'd love to see a 23 centimeter FM radio, because that band has been a little bit under threat recently. At the IARU, there was a lot of work done to try and protect the 23 centimeter band, which there was a lot of headway done there, which is fantastic to see. But the only way that we can really protect these bands is by using them more than we can. So 23 centimeters is a great band to get on, but sometimes it's not the easiest band to get on. So I'd love to see a 23 centimeter handheld radio so that there's more people will get on that band. I'd also love to see SSB, like proper SSB, in a VHF and UHF handheld. So if you're going to stick with just the 2 meters and 70 centimeters, 136 megs, that sort of thing. If you're going to just stick with that, then put proper SSB in it. Maybe even other modes, CW, digital, if you can add it in somehow with an inbuilt sound card, maybe in the handheld or something like that. That would be really cool, because even QRP, a little handheld QRP with 5 watts on SSB or even with digital FT8, it will still get quite a fair distance, and it's a great thing to play on. We just have to look at the Quancheng UVK5. Peter Parker VK3YE on his YouTube channel, he's been doing a lot of videos making contacts with the firmware modification, which is not quite SSB. OM0ET has also been doing a lot of videos as well on the modifications for that radio and using that for contacts. But I'd love to see, if you're just going to, if you can't do a radio that's got on a different band, then at least adding one of those modes in would be really good too. It would be open up a world of experimentation and communication. Someone also mentioned increased features. So one of the things that I brought out in my previous video was basically bands, what frequencies these radios run on. I didn't even really touch on features. And one of the things that does come to mind is the Radio Oddity GA5WB. In that radio, it comes with lots of different features, and one of them is Bluetooth to your phone, and you can run an app that has APRS on it, for instance. And I know someone made a comment about APRS, but it's kind of that innovation, just sort of lowering the price, lowering the barrier for some of these features to get into radios. So I guess that's another thing as well. If there's any features that you would love to see, it seems like today Bluetooth and GPS are pretty much in all of the high-end radios. So they're probably a given, but there might be something else that you'd like to see. Now, in that previous video, I highlighted some of the radios from the big Japanese companies from sort of the 90s, the 80s and 90s that came out with these radios. If you want to see some of the ones that I highlighted, then there is a link to this video over here. And I've also done some reviews on those handhelds, the TalkPod, the Quancheng, the TID radio, all of those others over here too, if you want to check those out.